property number 1 for today. So it's Monday. Still no Drake up. He'll be off for, I think, maybe another week. He's having medical issues with his foot. He didn't sprain it. I don't want to get into it because, I don't want to put his business out there. But anyways, he thinks he'll be back by Tuesday. I think it'll probably be by Thursday. But we are expecting a lot of rain. So I don't know. It's a mess right now. This is my busier week. So last week I did 30. Both weeks are evened out now. So 1 week I'm doing last week I did 37 yards. It's a big property. But anyways, last week I did 37 yards. This week I think I did 30. I think I'm at like 35 or 36. Yeah. So, realistically, I could do, I don't even know, if it doesn't rain, realistically, I should be able to do like 8 to 10 a day. So say 8. In 5 days, that's more than enough time for me to knock out all these yards. But it's supposed to rain, so I don't know. I'll probably have to work the weekend or hope that Jacob does come back tomorrow and I'm able to do, 12 to 14. Look at this backyard. Yeah, so I don't know. It is what it is. Just do what you can, and I might have to work the weekend, like I said. But in my last video, let's do a little recap. In my last video, I showed you guys how much I made. So pretty much, I worked from 7:30 to 3:30. I took an hour lunch between like 11:30 and 12:30. So that's like a 7-hour shift, I guess you can say. I made $565. I did get a comment saying that's too cheap, which I knew, you always get those comments when you give out your prices. But he did say, does that include like shrubbery? So like this one has a lot of shrubs. Let's go back. No, that doesn't include shrubbery. This is me just to come to your property and service your property. But you can see how many shrubs these are. If I have Jacob every once in a while, I'll trim them. But it only takes me like 10-15 minutes to kind of just cut the top and reshape it. When I'm by myself, I don't do it just because I don't have that luxury of having those extra few minutes to kind of like work on the little details. Normally, I just let my clients tell me. I tell them at the during the quote or when they signed up, like, hey, this doesn't include shrubbery. But when you do need it, just text me. It's normally a few probably, for this one would be a whole half a day, so it'd be pretty expensive. But if they have only like 2 or 3, just $20 to $40 more, just to pay for my hedge trimmer and whatnot. But no, it doesn't include it. I will say if they have like 2 or 3, I'm just gonna keep it maintained, because it literally takes me like 5 to 7 minutes. So and it just looks good on my end. They'll probably keep me. I think just by doing those few little steps, I'm actually making more money than less money in the long run, because they'll be good, loyal clients. Every now and then, they'll give me a tip or whatever, because that's what QuickBooks does. When I send an invoice, it sends them, it gives them an option to tip me, which I don't like. I feel like it's kind of like Starbucks. Like, I don't tip when I go to Starbucks, because you're literally doing what you're supposed to do. Like, you're doing your job and you want me to tip you for that? Like, no. But if I go sit down in a restaurant and they serve me and the service is good, I'll tip them. And I feel like this kind of leads to Starbucks. Like, they came, or I came, I gave them the quote for my time, and that should be it. Like, they shouldn't have to tip me. But obviously, if they're like, wow, like, Manny does a good job. We've never had a lawn care person like him that takes those extra few minutes. Let me tip him. I get that, but if it was to me, I would get rid of that feature. But I have gotten a good bit of tips off of it. So, it's not a bad thing, but I don't know. I just feel bad that it gives them that option, and some people feel obligated, like, oh, I guess I should tip him. And then at the end of the day, like, I don't even know who I know it tells me who tips me, but I don't even remember from all the clients that I have. But anyways, I have 8 for today. Like this one took me about an hour. Yep, starting to get hot. It's going to be in the 90s today, so I'm sure I'll be miserable towards the middle or end of the day, but let's keep going. Ironically, I got another message saying that in my area, I'm somewhat lucky because in his area, everyone charges $30 to $40 per yard. And that's what I'm saying. It just depends on your area, your market. You know, don't go off of my prices. Don't pay attention to these other guys that are saying, oh, that's too cheap or that's too high, you know, or that's too low, whatever. You know your area. The best thing you could do is network with other people in your area, and that's what I do. And then that way you know what they're charging, and you can see where you stand. If you are on the cheaper side or you are on the high side or you average, you know, and that's the best thing you can do instead of asking other lawn care, you know, through YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok. You know, we can give you our prices, but they might, you know, our prices are very different because of our market and our area and our state, our minimum wage, you know, taxes, everything. You know, there's so many variables. So the best thing you can do is just network with other guys in your area. You know, when you see them at the gas station, or if you're in a property and they're across from you, like, hey, you know, talk to them. You know, network. That's the best thing you can do. You know, I network with 3 people in my area, and then I talk to a few other people from different states. You know, and then just go from there. I guess what I'm trying to say is that there isn't an answer to this $1 million question of how much should I charge? How much do you charge? Because it varies from state to state. And, you know, that's why at the beginning of that video or towards the middle, you know, I was like, my first job, I was making $7.25. My first, like, legal job. And I started working when I was 13, and I used to work for this Mexican restaurant, or in this Mexican restaurant. And what I would do is I would get there 8 in the morning, and I would literally stand outside of the restaurant, outside of the business, and I would start screaming to, like, people. Not, you know, I would be like, oh, come on in. You know, we sell tacos, tortas, seafood, burritos, etc. And I would do that until, you know, I would take a lunch, they would feed me, and then I would go back out there, do it again, and then ride the bus back home. And I was making $15 a day doing that. And pretty much if I wasn't in school, I was there working. You know, and eventually I started delivering food, and, you know, because I was a kid, people would tip me $5, $6, $10, and, you know, and then that's when I really kind of started seeing some type of money. To fast forward to today, like to now, you know, what I try to average for, you know, it's $125 an hour, and if I have Jacob, maybe $150. But you have other guys that are saying, like, you know, I charge, you know, our minimum is $125 per employee that's on the job site. So if you have if I have 3 guys, what's that? That's $450 an hour to make it worth their while, because they have so many expenses, they have so many overheads, and this is how ultimately they become very successful. Me, like I said, I drew my line. I'm happy with what I got. I own a few things. I'm out here making money. I left the rat race 2 years ago, which seems very recent to me. You know, I'm never going to work for anyone else, and I'm happy with these numbers. Could I be more aggressive? Yes, you can always be more aggressive. And I'm sure maybe down the road, maybe 2-3 years from now, if I ever look back at this video, I'll be like, dang, why was I charging so cheap? Maybe why didn't I value my time? And that's what some of these other guys are saying. But right now where I'm at, I'm just saying, like, I'm just grateful and blessed to even be in the ocean with y'all, with some of these bigger fishes. You know, I'm just a tiny fish right now, you know, just grabbing and eating these little leftovers. But over time, I myself will become one of these big fishes. And I'm just grateful to be part of this ecosystem, or, you know, in this career or whatever, metaphorically, you know, per se. But at the end of the day, like, you know, what makes sense to you? What will make you happy? What's worth, you know, what number is it worth for you to drop that trailer? For me, you know, my average yard is, you know, if it's a cookie cutter yard, is anywhere from like 55 to 65. If it's a medium-sized yard, it's 75 to 85. You know, and if it's a big yard, it's anywhere from 85 to 125. where it's worth my while. And yeah, I have those days where I'm like, oh, I hate this because it's hot. I don't want to be out here. But then it's like moments like right now where it's like, okay, like, I'm enjoying it. It's breezy right now. It's chill. So, it's also a mentality game. You have to be not only physically, but mentally strong, where you can kind of like talk your way out of it, or, not your way out of it, but your way to stay in it. Be like, you know what, man, you keep going. You only got a few more, and kind of just motivate yourself. And that's what I've been doing. And if I were to be solo, then I would really focus on my route density. I would probably stop taking clients right now, and figure out a game plan. Like, okay, which clients are staying, which clients are going, what makes sense if I am going to stay solo. But ultimately, I don't want to. I want to keep growing. I want Jacob to be with me for the long haul, where eventually I feel comfortable enough to get him his own setup, and he's out, with someone else doing a few yards, or 10 to 12 yards a day, and then I'm on the side doing just maybe just like 6 yards a day, because then I'm overseeing everything else, and still trying to land more jobs, and kind of keep going from there, kind of get out of the operation per se. But because of how I am, I do want to stay physically active, so I know that I would want to be out here, even if it's like half a day, or 8 hours. It's just how I'm programmed and whatnot. But ultimately, go over your numbers, what makes sense for you. Ultimately, when you first start off, you're going to be underbidding yourself, because you don't know you don't know how to quote. So you're going to be on the cheaper side, and you're going to be saying these, you're going to be texting your clients every day. You're going to be like, hey Rosa, I'll be there tomorrow, and you're going to wait for the green light. You're going to ask, how do you want to pay me? You can pay me with whatever, is easiest to you. If I need to get a PayPal, if I need to get Zelle, if I need to get Cash App, if I need to knock on your door and get a check or cash, you tell me what you want, and I will bend over backwards to do it. And because ultimately you want the job, and as you keep growing, you're like, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. If you want to sign up for me, this is how I operate. These are my systems in places. But it's definitely a learning curve that a lot of us go through. And I feel like once we make it to the other side, we forget how we started. And we don't really realize how we come across as arrogance. And it may not come from a negative side, but I'm very empathetic. So I try to, be transparent with y'all and tell you the good and the bad. Property number 4, but let's look at, I'll try to get a little bit closer. I saw the lawn care that did this mess. Yeah, if you see yellow or brown streaks like this, you're cutting too short. I mean, it is a bad yard, but for mine, this is really a weedy yard. But this one I'm cutting at 3, I believe. That one, it looks like he cut at like 2. And it looks like his deck's unleveled, or just because he cut so short, and it's a bumpy yard. You can see his lines are all over the place, his stripes. I don't know, that's a bad job. I'd be on Jacob if he would do something like that. Jacob knows better than that now. That's what I'm saying, like, some clients don't care. Some clients, to them it really is just come here and cut the grass. And other people, I have a few clients that would fire me if I cut that short. They'd be like, you scout my yard, you cut it too short. And I'd be like, yeah, we did, I'm sorry. It'll grow back, but it doesn't make it okay. And if you guys are doing that, just learn from it, That's what this channel is all about. But anyways, let's keep going. This is number 4. I have one more, and then I'm going to get lunch. This is number 6, I believe. I took a 30-40 minute lunch. But look at these lines. 3.5, or no, that was 2.5, I believe. Whew. Yeah, so you don't want to be cutting short, because you're gonna end up burning up y'all's grass or your client's grass, or it's gonna get a disease. Up here I cut at 3 3/4, so pretty high, but it looks like I cut it short, but I didn't. I could have gone 4, but I feel 4 is too high. This one you can somewhat see my lines. Not really. Their grass ain't really the best. A little bit, somewhat. It looks good though in person. 6, I got 2 more. I might be able to do 5 more because I got 3 that are really right next to each other that we normally do on Mondays, but I just didn't think I would have enough time since I'm solo, but I might be able to, but let's keep going. So I got an interesting phone call. This has only happened one other time, but pretty much one of my clients, and he's actually a neighbor, called me and saying like, hey Manny, I had some guys coming over and we were walking the property and I noticed that his septic tank, the lid was broken, so like a piece chipped off. And the lid for this guy, I don't know if they all look the same, because I'm not a plumber, nor do I know about septic tanks like that. It's like a big green dome that sticks out of his yard, and this particular section has like a lot of dips and bumps. And when I first went over, he specifically had told me, I don't want you, obviously running your mower through here. And I was like, yeah, I wouldn't, or we wouldn't, because of all the bumps and obviously the big lid that you can clearly see. And and I just passed along the message to Jacob, because typically he mows that section. And one thing about Jacob is that he is a very genuine, humble, righteous person. Whenever he breaks anything, he lets me know right away. And of course I get upset because in my other videos I have said Jacob is very clumsy. But regardless, he does the right thing. He is very spiritual. He's very religious. He's been like on his own religious, spiritual journey lately for the past few months. So he calls me and tells me that, that he knows me, and, he thinks that my worker, Jacob, ran over the mower, that section, and it ended up breaking, a piece of his lid off or whatever. And right away I was like, you know what, sir, that does not sound like Jacob. I know, me personally, I have never used my mower around there because of just the dips, and I just wouldn't, it's just common sense, we wouldn't do that. And I was like, and your septic lid is just so big for us to even get close to it. I was like, I always weed eat that section, and it typically takes me an extra 7 to 10 minutes. But we rather spend those extra 7 to 10 minutes than run a mower through it. And I told him, and then that's when he brought up Jacob. He's like, I don't know your guy. And I pretty much told him, I was like, I'll call him, but that just doesn't sound like him. I know he wouldn't do that. I know he would tell me and we would get it fixed right away. But anyways, I was like, I'll call him, and we'll see, what he says. But the whole time he's kind of like, we just got to fix this. We got to make this right. And I was like, sir, if we broke it, I will fix it. I was like, but I'm pretty sure we didn't. And then he said, maybe the guy before he hired me did it, or he had just bought the house. So he's like, maybe it was always like that, and I'm just noticing now. He's like, but we got to fix it. And I was like, let me call Jacob. I'm working on a property. Once we're done here, or once I'm done here, I'll shoot him a call. So I called Jacob and I was like, hey, this, our neighbor or my neighbor, yada, 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 fill him in. And right away, he's like, no, he's like, man, he's like, me. He's like, I would have told you right away. And same thing, he's like, plus he's like, his septic tank lid is so noticeable. It's so big. He's like, there's no way I would ever run the mower anywhere near that. He's like, you always weed eat that section. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I told the guy or my client. So then I was like, thank you just for, if Jacob would have said I did break it, a long time ago, by all means, I would Jacob has hit a few things or broken a few things, and right away we fix it. I fix it, make things right, and I always tell the client, I was like, let me fix it, or I'll give them a discount, or I'll pay them for it. But pretty much I tell them all the same thing. I was like, I just want this to be dealt with so that I don't lose sleep over it and I can move on, and not really think about this issue anymore. And that's how I am. But anyways, I call the client back, tell him exactly what I thought Jacob was gonna say, and he's like, well, I just don't know. He's like, you're gonna have to see it next time you're in the area, or next time you service me, check it out and see what you think. And I was like, I mean, I'll look at it. I was like, but it wasn't us. It's just so, we would have said something, the motor would have spit out, from the side discharge. We would have seen little pieces flying out right away. I just know Jacob would have said something. But, yeah, I mean, I just told him, I was like, I'll look at it. I was like, but, it wasn't us, I'm not going to take responsibility for something that wasn't us. And ultimately, I'm not going to pay for it. Like, he wants me to pay for it. I'm not going to. If I lose them, I lose them. It is what it is. But I'm not going to pay for someone else's mistake. And again, if it was our mistake, by all means, I would have paid for it. But yeah. Oh, I did forget to mention. So the other time that it happened, same story. One of my clients told me that we pretty much ran over her water meter lid, and she, I guess, wanted me to pay it, but she didn't really say it. Like, she didn't text me those words specifically, but I was like, no, ma'am. I was like, if we would have hit it, we would have heard it. We would have seen all the plastic, little bits everywhere. And again, I would have fixed it. And during this time, I was solo. I was like, can you send me a picture of the lid? So I think she wanted, because she had mentioned the price. She's like, oh, these are normally like $300. So I think she wanted me to like just pay her the $300 or offer half or something. But when I told her, but my response was like, can you send me a picture of it to see what she's talking about? And she was like, right away, she was like, well, I'm actually on vacation. I won't be back till a few weeks from now. And she got an email from the water meter that somehow they knew it was broken. And that's why she was reaching out to me to see if I broke it. It was very strange. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, I can promise you I didn't break it, because I would have heard it and I would have seen it with my eyes, like all the, plastic or metal pieces. I think they're normally plastic, so I would have seen all the plastic pieces. And I was like, send me a picture and then we'll go from there. And she's like, no, don't worry about it. She's like, I'll check it out when I get home, but I just wanted you to be aware, but don't worry about it. So it's like, okay. I was like, so why text me? And it's like, I don't know. I'm not saying she was trying to get money out of me, but it sounded like she was trying to get money out of me, and she just expected me to be like, okay, here, let me sell you the money, without really doing my due diligence. And it's just like that, like things like that, where it's like, again, we've broken a few things. We always fix it. I've lost a lot of money, not a lot of money, but I've lost some money some days when I bring Jacob with me, because typically it's Jacob, but time and time again, regardless what he breaks, he lets me know right away. And of course I get upset, and even though he knows that I'm gonna get upset, he still tells me. But at the end of the day, I've told him, when you break something, you have to let me know, right away, so we can fix things. So there's that. So what, I woke up at 6, left the house by like 7:15. It is probably like 6:30. I could do one more I wanted to, but my body's telling me not to, and sometimes you just gotta listen to your body. Let me go this way so y'all can see this one. There's a small little cookie cutter yard. Ooh-wee. But Big Son, always dropping knowledge. How bad do you want it? Yes, sir, amen. How bad do you want it? If you really want it, you gotta push through these hard times. Learn from your mistakes. Keep grinding, keep growing. Make sure you guys, let me sit down for a little bit. Make sure you guys subscribe to Big Sons, Junk Squad, SX2. They are constantly always showing love to small content creators, which I truly appreciate. Especially Big Sons and Junk Squad. They've been one of my first subscribers. They're constantly watching my videos, leaving feedback or comments, positive comments. They always take the few minutes to watch my videos, which is always appreciative. But yeah, how bad do you want it? Because I want it bad, but this is miserable right now. Being out all day, especially during this heat. But I did get a call from Outback Steakhouse. They want me to put a bid. It's like I'm like, there's a middleman, pretty much their old lawn care provider. It's too far from him, and he called me a few months ago like, hey, do you want it? Like, sure. And he went over it. Seems very easy, it'll be good money. And I was like, yeah, just tell them to give me a call and we'll set things, I'll put them in my books. I never heard back from them. And then he called me today and he was like, hey, what happened? He's like, you haven't shown up. I was like, they never reached out to me. And they're like, no, everything's said and done. You just show up and, sign up through their portal and whatnot. And he's like, you're good to go. But I told them, I want them to call me. I want to speak to the GM. I kind of want to have a record in my book that we spoke to. So I'm waiting for him to send me her information or his information. I'll talk to them. We'll see if we can make things happen. But anyways, like always, I do want to say thank y'all for 1,300 subscribers. Truly appreciate it. So if you guys haven't subscribed, it really does mean a lot to me if you guys hit that subscribe button. But like always, subscribe. I appreciate y'all.